Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you to tonight's edition of Bible Study. Thank you for coming in to be with me. I am the spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and I'm so glad that you joined me on this fine day. Listen, if you are wishing to go from Genesis to Revelations, we're doing it in chronological order every evening at 6 o'clock. Cassandra, I see you out there. Good evening to you. And of course, the Bishop of Twitch is here. Yes, that's my guy. One Reason is in the house. I am so glad to see both of you this evening. Thank you so much for dropping in. Now, we're going to get going tonight. You know how we do. We don't spend a whole lot of time out doing a lot of lallygagging and chit-chatting. We just get right on into the word. So on tonight, we're looking and we're identifying. Let's go ahead over here and take a quick look at where we are tonight. We are looking at the regulations of the congregation. That's one of the things that we're dealing with this evening. The regulation of the congregation. We're dealing with that this evening. What else are we looking at? Divorce and other personal laws, Deuteronomy 24, 1 to 22, and first fruits offering, Deuteronomy 26. So if you are and then obedience and prayer, Deuteronomy 26, 12 through 19, commandments and blessings and warnings, Deuteronomy 27. So you will have read on today's reading from Deuteronomy 23 through Deuteronomy 27. So if you are keeping up with the teaching, that's where you should be. Now, I'm going to kind of have a little convo tonight, if you will. And it may be a little different than what you all are acclimated to or accustomed to, rather. I want to go and I want to grab this discussion about divorce. I don't know what everybody's ideas are, and everybody can have a different concept and a different idea. However, I want to deal with this a little bit on this evening. Let's see, I'm going to go to Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter. It looks like Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter. So let's pull that up. And I want to introduce, I don't know that it's an introduction really, but I want to remind, maybe that is a better word to utilize. I want to remind us about marriage and what marriage is. And I definitely want to come from maybe a little bit of a different angle than a lot of people are accustomed to having the conversation. So, we get into all the different aspects and elements about what is adultery, and obviously when two married people, there's some impropriety there, infidelity there. We take that as a matter of adultery going on. Of course, fornication would be the same type concept, except for no covenant relationship there between the two individuals. But nonetheless, I really want us in these days and times to, if you will, I really, really wish that we would take a much different approach to marriage and what marriage is and what marriage is not. I say this from the standpoint, somebody be like, well, spiritual thought leader, you're not married, so you can't talk on something you'll not. Listen, the Holy One of Israel is my husband. And you can say whatever you want to say. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to devastate me. But I am the bride, and I embrace that thoroughly. And the relationship is real. The relationship is lasting. The relationship has a covenant between me and my God. I'm very committed to that relationship. I take marriage, and I think I even like the idea of making the association, because we in our days and times have taken marriage more or less not from a spiritual standpoint, not from a spiritual perspective. But I am that one, and you all can disagree with me all day long. Go ahead and light up my chat. I am that one that believes marriage is a spiritual mystery. Marriage, real marriage, let me maybe emphasize my idea of a real marriage. So spiritual thought leader, what are you trying to get at? So I think even when you start talking about, let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and put some scriptures up here. Deuteronomy 24, verse 1. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. Oh, Lordy, 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 Lordy. Okay, so, oh, can we start with patriarchy right here? And I'm not going to get caught up in patriarchy because that's not the essence of what I really want to emphasize on tonight. But when a man had taken a wife and married her, now remember, the original society was set up on the structure of matriarchy, where for this cause was a man to leave his father and his mother and cleave himself to his wife, who would be in the company of her family. So we have there identified, even though a lot of people don't want to address that's just the way it started in the beginning. It was a matriarchal society. Studies of civilizations show over and over again that most of the ancient and original societies were matriarchal in nature. So it's not anything that's earth shattering and earth shaking here. However, this whole concept, and I'm gonna marry this, if you will, to Mark chapter 4. And this is where I probably come up with a different concept of marriage, and that it is a spiritual mystery. It is a spiritual connection. It is a spiritual bonding that cannot be broken. All right. Um, Mark 10, verses 4 through 9. They said Moses permitted a man a certificate of divorcement and send her away. And then verse 5, it was because of the hardness of your heart that Moses wrote this law, but from the beginning it was not so. God created male, then female. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. That phrase in verse 8, and the two shall be one flesh, that is the spiritual mystery that I'm talking about. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate, or as we often hear in the marriage vows, let no man put asunder. Now, so when I say it's a spiritual mystery, when you're talking about a real marriage, I'm going to contend, verse 8 there, and the two will become one flesh, so they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. This is an area that when I do premarital counseling with the couples that will come in, because most couples nowadays, they won't come in for premarital counseling. They just give you the date and tell you to show up. there's no there's no premarital, there's no marital, and there's no postmarital. We just, everybody does whatever they want to do. And it's amazing to me, even to that point. I bring in the point of order. I genuinely believe that when you are moving and operating in a real marriage, that you will seek out a clergy person that really will attend to your entire marriage before you get married, after you get married, and even in divorcement. If you all decide to divorce, I feel like you still, if you trusted me enough, and I tell people this all the time, number one, before y'all jump out and divorce each other, if you entrusted the care of your souls, and that's the way I look at it, as a minister of the gospel, to unite you together in holy matrimony, before you separate, that could you give me the same courtesy before you separate, and let's sit down and at least have a conversation before everybody just goes their own separate ways. Can we have another? If you trusted me enough, y'all, ooh, let me kind of shift around in my chair tonight, because this might get a little different and difficult for some people, but I know I may be talking about things that people no longer believe in, and that's okay. But I'm gonna say it again. If you trust me enough as a minister of the gospel to join you in holy matrimony, so that the two become one flesh, before you split, would you at least give me the courtesy, and hopefully before you get to the point where we got to go separate ways, it just ain't gonna work. Hopefully that relationship with the minister. Am I talking to anybody? Do I have crickets tonight? I would hope that you would give that minister, that clergy person, uh the same, if there is some distress or trouble that's brewing in the relationship, that there be an opportunity to sit down and have discussion about it, because I hope that the approach of that relationship has been of a two being made one flesh, the mystery of marriage, that spiritual mystery. And this is the thing that I think we don't think about anymore. We just basically, I like you, you like me. Let's try it. Let's try it. And I'm gonna say something, and y'all don't have to agree with me, but hold on to your weave and hold on to your wig, because this is genuinely what I believe. I believe there are a whole lot of people that are married that were never meant to be together, and technically, in the spiritual mystery, they're not married. Okay. I feel like there are folks that are not together, that they are the spiritual mystery to and for one another. And so they are married. It's a spirit. Come on, truck driver. It's a spiritual mystery. Come on, one reason. It's a spiritual mystery. It's not a coming together, standing in front of some people, signing a piece of paper. Just like I say about when you get that order of protection. That order of protection is just a piece of paper. That's not going to keep that individual that's abusing you from coming in your house, going upside your head, and or killing you if they so desire. It's a piece of paper. I think that we have reduced marriage to a place that we no longer understand it as the spiritual mystery that it is. So we can jump in, we can jump out. We can try it on, we can take it off. Almost like changing clothes. And I'm not, please believe me, if you've had multiple marriages, I am not here in any way, shape, or form trying to bash anyone. I'm trying to get us to understand the seriousness and the reality of a covenant, of a mystery, the marriage mystery that I feel like so many people actually miss. Woo, I'm talking heavy in here. This is real talk. This is real talk. One reason. So many people actually miss the real mystery of a spiritual marriage because uh, they just want to get quote unquote married, but there's no marriage and there's no mystery of a marriage there. And the two are never one flesh. It's always two people. People want weddings, not real marriages. Come on and talk to me, one reason. Come on and talk to me, brethren. Because this, I believe, is what creates the havoc in people in and out of relationships, back and forth, here, there, and or even when you start talking about when you get where Jesus starts talking about the bill of divorcement and adultery, and the idea, if you understand, come on, Cassandra, Lord, talk about a ball of confusion. Had I known who God, me, and the confused individual I made a covenant with before many, I could have avoided so many traumatic issues. God can say, come on here, you're talking real talk. These are areas that I feel, number one, I feel that a real minister of the gospel is going to enlighten the couple to these things prior to them trotting down the aisle. Now, like I said, I've gotten to the point now, most of my individuals that ask me to marry them don't even ask for premarital counseling. They just give me a date. Listen, some of them give me a date and I don't see them until the date. They don't listen. I'm telling you, I absolutely. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I'm calling, I'm texting, I'm trying to make contact, but they never have time. They're always busy or never answer my calls and never return my calls. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know your spouse's name. Come on, truck driver. I don't even know who you're about to marry. But at the end of the day, that part, I feel that a true minister of the gospel, when they sit down and talk to a couple that desires to marry, that they will make the mystery of marriage and the spiritual nature of marriage known. It's not just we want to have a wedding. And I've got this wedding already planned in my mind, and I know who I want to marry, and we're going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, we're just going to get a divorce. And as Cassandra said, it can leave so much heartache, so much trauma, so much pain, so much devastation. But again, the idea is that the union is a spiritual mystery where the two literally are one flesh. And I'm going to say it again. I said it once, I'll say it again. I'll continue to say this. There are people that are married that were never really married because there is no spiritual union there. It's to two people that had a wedding and walked down the aisle and signed some papers. Then you also have the mystery of people that feel like they're married and the two are still two people. They still are not one flesh because there is no mystery of the marriage there in a spiritual nature at all. You must and should have counseling before marriage. Come on here, in cookies. Talk to me. Oh, we done brought the sister in. Come on, it's good to see you. And that's an absolute positively, I believe with all my heart. However, in cookies, you'd be surprised the number of people that absolutely positively refuse to have any counseling before they get married. So, it is a interesting time in which we live. And how many times do we see those situations end in divorce? Now, as I said, I always encourage, if you entrusted me to marry you and you truly believe that this is the spiritual mystery that God has given the two of you, one to the other, then please, before you all part and go separate ways, give me the common courtesy, if you will, of reaching out to me and letting me sit down and mediate and listen and talk and share. Because listen, I don't care how much two people love each other, there are going to be places where they're not going to see eye to eye. There are going to be places where there are going to be difficult days. Difficult days should not automatically equal divorce. Okay? Difficult days should not automatically equal divorce. I'm going to say even infidelity, if that should occur, should not always end in divorce. There are so many things that need to be addressed. There are so many things that need to be talked about. There are so many things that, I am dealing with someone that has a sex addiction, and it's real. It's real. It is a sex addiction. And I'm not going to divulge any information more than that, other than to understand when you still have addictions that have a hold of you and you are in certain situations, it makes for a very difficult situation for everybody involved. But the transparency, come on, this is where I am right here. Transparency and the willingness to walk through and talk through, and let's get to the core. Addictions are the results of a deeper issue. Hear me when I say this. Addictions are a result of a deeper issue. So let's get to the deeper issues. Let's get to the deeper conversations. Let's get to, and I'm not, please believe I'm not, the timing of this, that there's no divulging here. But at the end of the day, as a minister of the gospel, so glad that there was enough respect, trust, and honor to come back to me and say, okay, let's be transparent. This is what's going on in the marriage. We need help. And there was enough love there to make it. There was enough love there. Let me say this. Genuinely, when you get down to the core of it, they truly are that marriage mystery that is spiritual in nature, that is so far transcendent, so that you get to the point when you understand, and hear me, I'm not saying, I'm not that one that says, I don't care what's going on, I don't care how much this, that, and the other, physical abuse, infidelities, this, that, and the other, you got to stay there. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to really, really assess the situation, talk it through, and understand what's really going on, because there may be something else that's actually going on that we need to get to the root. And of course, even if I go back to that situation, it was rooted in child abuse that occurred in the childhood, that once things started to be understood and shared, it was understandable. It was also the devastation. I mean, it was so much there, so much there. But by the end of it all, we understood those two people were made for each other. They actually, absolutely, positively had that spiritual union, that spiritual mystery that I'm talking about, that existed. And that's what gave the ability and the love to endure in spite of. And it was healed. Now let me add that. Let me give the end result. Let me give the end result. It was healed. We didn't just continue. It was a lot of work, not only in spiritual counseling, but in personal counseling with a therapist, and working together. And at the end of the day, it was powerful. Your marriage should involve three: God, your spouse, and you. I hear you talking one reason. I hear you talking. I agree. Now, and let me say, even from the spiritual standpoint of it, and I don't want anybody to, from what I just said, feel that I'm endorsing infidelity. I'm just saying, I want people to understand that if in fact, and this is the question you need to ask before you jump off in that marriage, and this is, I feel like there's so much that we omit from people having conversation and understanding about what is about to happen. We're not just walking down the aisle. We're not just going to go buy some rings that we both like, and then figure out what colors we want, and everybody's getting, and we got 15 people in the wedding party for a marriage that might last 2 seconds. There's so much more. And I feel that in counseling, whether it's spiritual or professional, in the regular realm, to me, that still is not a matter of bringing somebody else into your marriage. If you need somebody to mediate and help you get over the hump, they become a part of the two of you. And definitely God needs to be at the forefront. But this is what I will say. This is what I will say. I wish that if we really understood the mystery, we would understand when Jesus was talking, and even what was given in the Old Testament. If you look at somebody else, come on, come on. This is where I want to go with this. If you understand marriage as a spiritual mystery of two becoming one flesh, for real, for real. If you understand that, you understand that wandering eyes is already, you committed it in your heart already. If you looking on the woman to lust after her, because there is a breach to, hear me what I'm saying. Spiritual is not about, when you get in the spiritual realm, spiritual is not about, but I never did touch him. Spiritual is about, where is your heart, your motive, your intent, what's going on in your mind, what are you entertaining. I'm talking about when you talk about marriage in the spiritual sense, not just the fleshly, carnal sense of how we talk about, I didn't do nothing. Again, that is the core of when Jesus said, if you looked after them to lust after them, you've already committed adultery in your heart. It's already a done deal. Why? Because you have at that point had an offense against the fidelity of that spiritual union. Am I making sense? And honestly, I went through that in my 30s with my wife. I did wrong, but with the spiritual counseling we have been as for 37 years. Now, come on here, truck driver. And that's the thing, that oneness. That oneness. I see people that have stayed together 50, 60 years and they are not one flesh. Please hear me when I say that. They're staying there because I got to make sure there's a check coming in, and the finances I can't make. I mean, there's all kind of reasons why two flesh is still under one roof, but they're not. They're married, but they're not married. It's not popular, but serious issues, even the most serious, can be healed. God is bigger than all of it. We don't want to do the work. And again, Crystal Method, I think this is the core that I'm trying to get at. You don't want to do the work if that's not your spiritual other. Not your, I'm not going all these places that people like to go. I'm talking about spiritual connection. And when you know that this is my spiritual connect, even if and when hard times come, Crystal Method, you will work through it because you know this is my spiritual connect. This is who I am married to. And this is not on contract of paper or because we don't want to let somebody in the family down. We don't want to be an embarrassment to this, that, or the other. We staying together for the kids. I'm talking about, this is who God has given you to, and vice versa. And this is the place that so many times people are impatient. They are, now listen, and I can hear it's better to marry than to burn. Child, come on now. Come on now. Come on. And to that, and I understand some folk, y'all, you just can't stand to burn, so either you're gonna jump in and get married to somebody you have no business with, or y'all gonna be in dire straits. So there you have it. But this is all a part of learning how to have discipline, because at the end of the day, my hope is that you always have a sense of whatever I have of my being, when I am brought together with my connect, my spiritual connect. I'm not just talking about hookups. I'm talking about spiritual connection, divine assignment, divine appointment. I want to bring you the very best of me that I can. And I want to bring you all of me that I can. Not, I got pieces here, there, and everywhere. There's a piece of me here. There's a piece of me there. There's a piece of me everywhere. I want to bring all of me. And I'm not even just talking about sexually. Some of us have given away pieces of ourselves mentally and emotionally to all these other people. So that when we try to come together with who that God has joined together, let nobody put asunder. When it finally comes time for the mystery of marriage that is spiritual, we've given so much of ourselves in so many different places, you almost can't go back and collect yourself. It's just too much here, there, and everywhere. And so you'll spend time in the relationship with that spiritual connect, trying to regather all your pieces. Am I talking to anybody? And I feel like this is an understanding that we especially need to give our young people, because I feel they've gone through a season now where most of them have not seen a marriage that survives. Most of them, most of the generations behind us, very few of them have seen marriages that actually survive, much less thrive. So there is that flailing that is out there, them trying to figure out what is this all about, almost to the point now. That's why, and I'm gonna say it. That's why we get thruples and all the little segments of groups that have grouped together. And at the end of the day, what I do want to say, even when I read that in the Bible, because I've had that conversation. Well, people in the Bible, they had several wives, several husbands, several, concubines, and all of this and that and the other. And if you feel like that's what God has assigned to you, so be it. I feel like a lot of people are there because they have shortchanged themselves and they have taken another route to try to fill up voids. Because listen, let me tell you what, and I'm being as honest and transparent as I can be without I'm not going to put people's business in the streets. But at the end of the day, I got folks that are in thruples and groupies that are unhappy. Because it's like the song said, we're looking for love in all the wrong places. I don't care how many partners you have. I don't care how many agreements you make that this is allowable in the relationship and this and the other is allowable in the relationship. At some point, I feel like you ultimately get that understanding as you walk that journey out. I'm still in the same dilemma I was when I was trying to be just me and you. So, as a matter of fact, sometimes more hurtful, because in those multitudes, there's a lot that goes on that doesn't necessarily get spoken about in the open. And I say that because it doesn't get spoken about in the open, which makes it still attractive to so many of our young people, especially, who are eyeballing that. And there are older people that are eyeballing that too. That's okay. But why am I here? Why am I here? And is this really what I want? And I can tell you once more and again, I'm still on marriage, y'all. I'm talking real talk here. I'm talking about 2025 talk. I've talked to individuals who at this point they have been devastated and traumatized uh, by several of the people that are in that multitude of relationship, and trying to get themselves back in some semblance. And can I come here for a minute? Some are, it's not what they wanted, but to please my partner, and this is where I have to say, uh I want us to know ourselves. Know yourself. Know yourself. Do not allow yourself, and I'm only talking to and about individuals that I've had communication with. I'm not talking about, so at the end of the day, we don't hear this side of it, and that's what's partly making it so attractive right now, because people are not hearing any of the downside. And hey, at the end of the day, I look and I say and I see wounded people trying to find ways to heal. And even the understanding of experimentation. I'm not in your bedroom. At the end of the day, what I will say, and no one, I don't want anybody confused on that point. The marriage bed is undefiled. Let me stop right there. So for anybody that thinks I'm getting ready to go into some place of bondage of unless the missionaries are in the house. No, that's not right. The marriage bed is undefiled. What you do, and what one reason said it earlier, is between God, you, and your spouse. At the end of the day, that's it, point blank blunt. But I'm talking about when you start trying to find some way to spice up something with a whole bunch of other people and this and that and the other. Uh, Let me say this: you're opening a lot of doors. Can I put it that way? You are opening a lot of doors. So, at the end of the day, when you start talking about, and again, I'm not just talking about sexually, I'm talking about a lot of people are opening doors mentally and emotionally that ain't never touched anybody else sexually. Please understand it. The very point that Jesus was making, if you're looking on them and you already have an idea of lust in your heart, you've already committed sin already. You've already committed the adultery already, because basically, again, I'm going back to spiritual connection. Not just we hooked up. I'm talking about spiritual connection. And I don't think we really talk about spiritual connection too much anymore. We really don't. Even when we talk about marriage, it's just kind of like, oh, they got married, oh, yeah. But can you stop and say deep down in your heart, this is the person that I genuinely believe that God has given me, and I for them for a lifetime? Hey, that right there. Development of a true relationship with God gave me much insight and counsel on my disconnection from a disaster. As I pursued a relationship with God, the larger the gap between my partner and, come on, now that's some true talk right there. That's some real talk right there, Cassandra. Listen, that right there, that'll preach. Development of a true relationship with God gave me much insight and counsel on my disconnection from a disaster. As I pursued a relationship with God, the larger the gap between my partner and I hear you. I hear you. And this is, and at the end of the day, for anybody that feels that I am antiquated and teaching this concept that you can never divorce, I'm contending some of y'all that got marriage license, you were never married. You never were married because you weren't one. You were not the person for them. They were not the person for you. I'm talking about the spiritual mystery of marriage. The spiritual mystery of marriage is what causes two to become one flesh. And I'm gonna tell you what, y'all, you don't have to believe me. I've seen people that never got together, but they were married. Now just chew on that for a second. I saw people that never got together, but they were married. And I'll just leave that right there where it is, and somebody may, you can question me on it after the fact, whatever. But I'm telling you, I have seen it. God works for our good even when we put the cart before the horse. Absolutely. And this is what I want to say too, because I don't want people to feel like I have an antiquated idea that once you get married, you can never divorce. And I'm going to say it once more and again. Some people were never married to begin with because there was no spiritual connection in and there, and the two were never one flesh. But at the end of the day, this is what, and I'm gonna share this. I had a close, near relative, a loved one in my family that was in a very bad relationship, and I don't contend anybody be someplace in a bad relationship. But that speaks to my point. Spiritually, yes, there were marriage licenses had, but at the end of the day, that was not a marriage. Uh, but I'm talking about spiritual mystery of marriage and one being one with one another. And so I had another family member, a generation ahead of us, that I was very close to, and he was literally dying within hours of his death. The last time I saw him, and he was at the VA, and he on his deathbed, he was concerned about this individual, and he said, "Tell him, get a divorce. The Lord forgives." Listen, I hollered. This man was on his deathbed, but it was such a messed up situation that on his deathbed, that was on his heart, on his mind, in his spirit. He did not want to see the tragedy of a whole life spent in that train wreck. And so, Cassandra, to your point, when it's already done, and as you said, getting that closer relationship with God starts to reveal all kinds of things. Call a spade and do what you need to do. Now, some people would be like, "I can't even believe you said that. I thought you were of God." Listen, uh, I do not advocate if that is not who God has joined together, not what you joined together, and that becomes the difference. Is it what God has joined together, or is it what you joined together? Because listen, even as a person of the cloth, I'm standing there giving you your vows, but I can't join you together. If you all are disjoined and disjointed, I can't join you together. I can't make you come together. I can't make you be one flesh. I can't make you be married. I cannot. So you can have all the blessings and all of the declarations and all of the my hand going over the top of your hand and y'all's hand under my hand and I'm speaking over you. But at the end of the day, if you all are not designed for each other, it is not a marriage. Now, I said what I said, and I'll add to it before I take it back. But when you are really in the mystery of a spiritual marriage, there is something that, number one, it will sustain you. It was a pretty. Crystal Method sure was a pretty wedding. I told you, y'all got 15 and 20 bridesmaids and groomsmen for a wedding that's gonna last 3 minutes. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? But at the end of the day, it sure was a pretty wedding. But in that, I take full responsibility as a woman of the cloth. I do try to break this spiritual mystery down, and I'm not trying to make couples run the opposite direction. I really just want you to think about what you're doing because this is serious. It's not just we gonna stand up here and say these vows and 2 years down the road if it ain't work, bye, see ya. And I do understand that happens. I'm not putting you down for that. I'm just saying power, the power of waiting, and I think that becomes our issue because the saints don't want to wait. There's an old song they used to sing in the church. I'm willing to wait. We ain't willing to wait no more. We ain't willing to wait. That we can't sing that old song no more. I'm willing. I'm willing, Lord, to wait. No, we're not. We are not. We're not gonna wait. So it creates a dilemma. It creates a situation. And at the end of the day, as I said before, when you've given yourself mentally and emotionally, I'm not even talking about sexually, When you've given yourself mentally and emotionally, it is very difficult to recover yourself. Not just recover, it can be very difficult to recover yourself. But this is what I do want to say, because I don't want to give all the negative, negative, negative. When you have witnessed two people, and this is what I hope we'll do and provide for the generations that are coming behind us, give them relationships that they can look at and say, wow, that's what I want. Give them relationships that they can look at and say, is that what marriage is about? Is that? And they can see the mystery and the beauty of that mystery. Because when you do find some folk that really, 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 and I think that's the thing, we have no model. We don't have a model. So it's like I'm just out here trying to figure it out. But when we have real models of the mystery, and come on now, I felt something right there. I want to start seeing and creating real models of the mystery where people can look and see and observe real love. I'm talking about real love. And see the manifestation of that, see the partnership in it, see the care, see the tenderness, see the attention, see the, y'all understand what I'm saying? And like I said, you can say whatever you want to say about me, and I don't have a problem with it. But I'm telling you, the real mystery of the marriage that I have with God as God's bride, when I come into the real mystery, I'm not trying, you're not going to get me up here talking about the devil, because why am I going to focus on all my energy on the devil when I got God to look at, to behold the beauty of the Lord and inquire in his temple? Am I talking to anybody? When I'm in the temple, in his temple, beholding the beauty of the Lord, I'm not getting ready to focus and concentrate on a whole lot of devil. What for? Why is my mind over there? My mind is on the beauty of the Lord and inquiring his temple. I'm telling you, this is what makes the difference. I'm not trying to have a divided eye. I'm looking over here and I'm looking over there, and what can I see and where can I find something better? Where can I find something more? Baby, I'm excited right here. I got the best right here. I'm in love right here. I'm swooning right here. I am totally taken right here. Listen, my nose, truck driver, you say run a whole Mack truck through them nostrils. My nose is wide open right here. I'm not looking for anybody else. I'm not looking for anything else. Am I talking to you all? And because I understand that in the spirit, and that's really my relationship with God, and I'm cultivating it every day to keep the spice and the love alive. But at the end of the day, because I understand that in the spirit realm, I know in the natural realm, come on here, the mystery of marriage, the spirituality of marriage is more than just two people deciding to hook up. And unfortunately, we really don't talk about that. And so when Jesus said in Mark chapter 4, after they said, but Moses gave certificate for a bill of divorcement, and Jesus said from the beginning it was not so, but for the hardness of your hearts. Because instead of you finding your heart and the person that is your spiritual connect, you just jumped out here and got something. That's the hardness of your heart. Instead of waiting for who is really yours, who belongs to you, and who you belong to. Am I talking to anybody, or I'm just bumping my gums in here? Who you belong to and who belongs to you. When you wait and attach and connect to that, nothing can stop that. Nothing can stop that. And you don't have wandering eyes and wandering hearts and wandering feet and other body parts that are wandering. All right. And that includes your mind and your emotions. So this, I hope, has been helpful. And again, I believe this to be according to the spirit in which it's given in the word. I am not, one last time, just for anybody that walked in and got confused, I am not saying you cannot divorce. That's not where I live. Even though that's the way my upbringing was, you don't divorce. I hate this to this day. I heard a preacher in my faith tradition who got up and said, I don't care if he beat you for breakfast, come out here for noonday prayer and then go home and get your noonday beaten. No, ma'am, no, sir. No, ma'am, no, sir. I reject that with every ounce and fiber of my being. No, sir. So at the end of the day, that is not where I am. And sister girl should have been in divorce court. And so no, I do not advocate that, and I do not have. Again, if you found out, as Cassandra said earlier, that the cart got put before the horse, correct it, correct the situation, but don't just be led by God. I want you to be led by God. That's what I want. Contentment with godliness is great gain, and you shall remain content eternally. Come on here, Cassandra. Um, and so I just want us, and the two that are supposed to be together, they'll find each other. God will find a way to bring them together. You don't have to worry about that. For everybody that's out there stressing and worrying and wondering, the person that is your other, they'll find you. You'll find them. You'll come together, and you'll know that it was God, and you'll know that God not only brought you together, but this is God's plan for me. You'll know it. And if you're uncertain and you're unsure and you're wondering, and some of y'all see the signs before you ever get there. If you see some signs, don't play. Don't play. Do not, if the Lord is showing you signs, as Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. Don't play games. And we're not here to change anybody. All right? Because a zebra ain't going to change its stripes. And a leopard's not going to change its spots. Well, I guess that felt a little. I hope you all understand where I'm coming from. It's been relatively quiet in here, and that's okay. And I'm glad In Cookies, honey, when In Cookies came in and talked, I said, "Come on, Jesus!" But I again, I'm getting ready to wrap up, but I just want you all to understand how spiritual marriage is. It's not just a piece of paper. It's not just us making a decision and planning some nuptials. And no, it's so much more than that. And I wish we would give back to it the depth of it's a solemn and holy affair. It really, really is. I wish we would bring that back to marriage. And so it would clarify all these points that this chapter has. The 24th chapter just goes on and on and on about divorcement and all of that. But if he found some uncleanness in her, oh my God, I'm just trying not to not to react to these scriptures. One reason the Bishop of Twitch, along with In Cookies, is in the house today. Come on, I love you both, and thank you for being here. Cassandra, Isaiah, it's good to see you, and thank you for your input. I appreciate you and your sharing and even your transparency, as well as you, truck driver. Thank you for coming in, and I appreciate you having this conversation with me on today. In Cookies, listen, I am so glad. I am so glad that you came in to share your opinion and give us your thoughts. And I agree, you must and should have counseling before marriage. I appreciate you. Crystal Method, I love you, sis. It's not popular, but serious issues, even the most serious, can be healed. Come on, Crystal Method. And I agree. Again, and I'm going to say, I'm always going back to, is this who God has for me? Is that KB Browns? How did I miss you, man? Good to see you. That's my brother, and you must be out and about doing some things because you're kind of quiet tonight. But I appreciate you. I love you. That's my brother. I want to make sure, Cassandra, Isaiah, I appreciate you for all that you've shared. I think it's that area. It's a seriously holy covenant. I agree with you on that. Crystal Method. You got in late. I got you, KB. I got you. It is a holy covenant, and I wish that we gave it that level of credence. And then some of you all know, you took the Shelly Thunder. Come on, you were lurking and multitasking. Come on in here. It's good to see you, sis. Come on, I appreciate you. And some of you know, you did what you did, and the other person did what they did. But recognize both parties. It takes two parties. It takes two parties and God. It takes two parties and God. And if that other person has no intent of uh, coming into that holiness of a spiritual union, a spiritual marriage, and I'm gonna keep saying spiritual because I want us to understand it's more, it's so much more. It is spiritual. It is spirit. You can't become more spiritual than marriage. Y'all hear me? Two people, you cannot become more spiritual one to the other than marriage. That's a union and a oneness that, and nothing should come between it. All right, nothing. You shouldn't allow anything. If it's God, now I'm gonna keep telling y'all. I want y'all to wait on the Lord. God's intent about marriage is for it to represent His love for the church, and that's exactly right, Cassandra. That is exactly it. It is a symbol. It is an offshoot. It is when you talk about cause and effect. It is listen. God's love produces healthy relationships and marriages amongst us. It should. It really, really should. If we would come back to the spiritual nature of it, um, the spiritual gravity. I'm gonna use the term gravity because it is grave. It's not to be taken lightly. It's not to be toyed with and played with. Come on in here, Jabez. I love you. I love you. I love you with all of the rainbow. I love you so much. Come on in here. But relationships should come from that spiritual perspective. All right. I love you, man. Thank you for coming in, Jabez. So there you have it. I want us to think about our relationships and take them seriously, deeply, from the heart, um, and just think about what you're doing and why, and what relationships are really your spiritual connect. Not only in marriage, but I'm just gonna say relationships. Period. In your intimate realm, in your close realm, what relationships are really your spiritual connect? That's what I want you to foster. I want you to cultivate. I want you to spend your time and energy in those relationships, especially because those are the relationships that mean something. All right. I'm ready to get out of here. I appreciate everybody that came in on tonight. Our study was from Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter on divorcement, and the bill of divorcement that was given in the old covenant. And I hope I shared some things that helped you along your way in understanding that scripture. I love you guys so much. Listen, I'll be back tomorrow night. Can't wait to see you then. Have a good rest of your evening. Peace for your journey.